Christina Rausch, and I would like to welcome you to the June 18th, 2025 Design Review Committee meeting. This is a 9-person committee whose primary function is to perform design review for projects located in one of the city's 3 designated design review areas: downtown, the riverfront, and the hotel overlay zoning districts. This is a mandatory review voluntary compliance process, with one exception for hotels seeking to skip council review. Hotels taking advantage of this incentive must receive a positive recommendation from the committee. All committee members and staff are participating in person. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, and also linked on the committee page. You can also watch the meeting on the city's YouTube channel, either live or recorded. I will now take roll call. Jeremy Goldstein is absent. Catherine Ankaya?
Here.
Stephen Lee Johnson?
Here.
Thomas McLaughlin is absent. Michael McDonough?
Here.
Brian Moffitt?
Here.
Robin Raines? Here. And Ricardo Sejo?
Here.
And we do have quorum today. And the first...
Do you have quorum when I recuse myself?
And the first item of business is the approval of the minutes from the April 17th, 2025 and May 1st, 2025 meetings.
I'd like to move that we approve those minutes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. And then the next item is the election of chair and vice chair. I'd like to nominate Brian Moffitt for vice chair. Happy to continue as chair unless
I'll
anyone
nominate
else.
Christina as chair unless anyone has an objection. Is there anyone else? Because we're both happy to not.
I third.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion is approved. And we'll move to our new business. We have 4 projects for formal design review, beginning with 161 Church Street, Church Hill Condominiums, which is a level 2 project.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee members. This mic's kind of low. Good afternoon. I'm Will Palmquist, Planning and Urban Design. I'll be presenting this design review for a project known as Church Hill Condominiums. It's a level 2 project located downtown in the Downtown Design Review Overlay area. This is being reviewed as a mandatory review, voluntary compliance type review. Here's the project outline, location outlined in green. It's a 0.39 acre parcel in the South Slope neighborhood of downtown. You can kind of see on the overall aerial the relative location on the southern side of the CBD district. It is outside the traditional downtown core. It's located in the tallest height zone and does not have any frontages on key pedestrian streets. You can see Church Street located here in front of the property, and then Banks Avenue to the south, South Lexington and South Charlotte to the east of the site. I'll point out that the project does have 2 unopened right-of-ways located on either side of the property, on the south and the north, and we'll be mentioning that a little bit later when we talk about access to the proposed building. Another view, a little more perspective. Kind of see the different typologies of buildings in the area, some newer, larger scale buildings, some more historic commercial buildings on Banks Ave, and then kind of some more, I guess, suburban-ish office and industrial style buildings off of Ravenscroft Drive to the northwest of the site. What's being proposed is a new 9-story building with 47 residential units, totaling approximately 95,000 square feet. Maximum height is proposed at 99 feet, and that is measured from the primary pedestrian entrance at the first floor to the surface of the highest floor. So that's not inclusive of the parking decks or the roof structures. Parking consists of 2 levels of structured parking beneath the main building with 56 total spaces. Access is off those 2 alleys I mentioned earlier. The parking deck levels are not connected, so one entrance will be to the higher level and one entrance on the other side will be to the lower level. I'll kind of explain that a little bit later on some of these elevations. There is a proposed minimum 10-foot wide sidewalk along Church Street, along with the required street trees located in tree grates. There's also proposed to be a landscaped green roof terrace on the east side of the building's 8th floor. So here are the material sheet of the proposed building as well as the perspective of the main facade. You can see that the lower portion of the building, which is kind of a storefront style, is proposed to be a running bond brick pattern. The gray material, the kind of tan material, is a thin masonry. There is proposed glass, of course. The kind of brown accenting is a anodized aluminum window and door framing, and then the gray paneling is a metal panel in a slate gray color. This is the main elevation facing Church Street. You can see the storefront elements on the first floor. Behind that are the levels of parking garages, and fronting that is kind of a lobby, mailroom, workout space, some storage area for residents. The upper stories is where the residential units are located. This area here where the kind of trees are planted marks the street wall height and the step back required based on the width of the right-of-way, and then for a minimum of 2/3 of that facade. So that kind of is a 10-foot minimum step back, and then the rest of the building located behind it in this portion. That is in this area of the building on the 8th floor. This is a terrace of some sort. I don't know if it's a technical green roof or not, but applicant could probably expand on that a little bit more. So that's kind of the overall massing. You can see above this level where the 8th floor begins is where the massing breaks down a little bit based on limitations to floor plate areas above 75 for floors located above 75 feet in height. So that's kind of dictating some of those changes at the 8th and 9th floors. Here's the rear of the structure, as I guess you would see from Ravenscroft. It's very wooded back there, so you can kind of see it mirrors the front for the most part. There are no step backs or anything required in that, so it's more of a straight massing of the building. This is the south elevation, so if you're going up north on Church Street, this is what you'd see. You can see the storefront elements wrapping around on this portion of the elevation here, and then the garage entrance and exit for the lower parking deck. Flip side of that is the north elevation, and then of course on this side is the entrance and exit for the upper of the 2 parking deck levels. There are some additional perspective renderings provided I've put in here. This is the view of that southeast corner of the main facade.
So both those alleyways are two-way traffic?
They would have to be improved to, I believe, allow for that. It doesn't currently exist in that capacity, but the applicant has to improve them in a manner that meets city standards for that two-way traffic. Yeah.
Is there any flexibility to keep that tighter? I mean,
I have to check the
18 or 20-foot wide just for an occasional car passing each other seems like a lot of wasted asphalt.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that sentiment. I can't remember what the exact requirement is. It would be based off the standard specification details manual. Applicant might have a better idea of that, if we can defer that to them, since they've been referring that for this design. Might be some flexibility in that. That is based on the traffic engineer's discretion for any modifications to SSDM standards. But I do agree with the sentiment that, it's probably it would make sense to limit the amount of asphalt there for the reasons you mentioned, the view of the other side of that main facade. This is the primary pedestrian entrance here. That same view at night, so you kind of get a sense of the depth, lobby space at night. Backing up a little bit, you see a little more of that kind of articulation of the building. Setback on the street wall height here, and then some of the massing as it kind of breaks up a little bit above the 75-foot height at the 8th floor. South. From the rear of the site to kind of give a little more perspective of the back south corner. So this project was reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its May 5th meeting. It was approved with conditions, required revisions. It was informally reviewed by the Design Review Committee on April 16th. Staff report about some of the main comments noted at that meeting. From what I can tell, the design is relatively similar to that was reviewed at the informal without major changes. There were some. The biggest change, if I can go back here for a second, is that I believe this massing above the 9th floor was kind of brought up a little bit, kind of mimic the scale with the massing on the other side here. I think those were the major changes. The applicant might be able to expand on that a little bit, but those were the major, at least, design changes on the massing of the building. Before you today is a formal review for their design as a voluntary compliance measure, and it is scheduled for Planning and Zoning Commission ministerial site plan review for July 2nd. The project would have to return for final TRC review all the technical requirements of the UDO and SSDM after they had their zoning approved. Staff finds that the proposal complies with the design and operational standards in the CBD district, requirements for siting, height, and massing, pedestrian entrances located along frontages, and then compliant fenestration on all sides of the building. Staff also finds that the proposal is in alignment with downtown design guideline standards, including the major sections highlighted here: street orientation and lot layout, height and massing, facade relationship and proportions, facade materials and fenestration details, facade colors, and also another recommendation section regarding rooftop terraces and green roofs. Staff finds that the proposal is not or only partially in alignment with downtown design guidelines standards, commentary in the staff report. I'll briefly touch on these now. Regarding landscaping measures to soften the pedestrian experience, staff finds that project does not propose much additional landscaping beyond what's required. There are other proposed required street trees and the grates along Church Street and also the green roof terrace on the 8th floor, but that seems to be the extent of the landscaping to soften the pedestrian experience. Further, it's regarding the requirement 1A noted there for new building construction to try to have similar relationships in massing and story heights to adjacent buildings. It's kind of difficult to measure that in this area of the south slope of downtown, given that the other adjacent building types are really just not comparable types of building style or construction. I think there would be opportunity to try to see and understand better how the building design relates to the building across the street on the other side of Church Street, which is a similar multifamily building typology. No information is provided on that. Regarding the recommendation for appropriate facade with rhythm, staff finds that there are kind of these three main bays of the building proposed, and portions of the building that are set back to kind of give that better articulation could be a little more enhanced, either more granularly or with more setback or material changes to show that rhythm better, to mimic a more historic, traditional storefront spacing. The guideline recommends the 50 to 100-foot intervals. And then finally, regarding the use of authentic materials, staff does note that the project proposes metal panels, which are not considered an authentic
Not considered authentic in the guidelines?
I guess relating to historic buildings is what the guideline speaks to.
All right.
An appropriate material if it's even if it's not a historically used. Staff does support the proposed building design of the project and recommends approval. There's a suggested motion here. I've got to answer any questions you might have. We also have the applicant available today to present any more information or answer questions.
Well, looking through the TRC comments, it did not look like there was anything from TRC that would necessarily require changes in the building based on what we're seeing. There was one comment about like the 5th floor setback, but that's been met?
Yes, the initial TRC proposal was not compliant with the setback at the street wall height, but it is now. They brought it.
Well, I think that one comment that you had in your report regarding the terrace, there is not a green roof. There are planters on that terrace, but there is no green roof. I think that those words need to be removed from what goes to planning and zoning as well. Unless that changes, so hopefully it will.
Glad to update that information, and also welcome the applicant to kind of explain maybe what they're proposing there. It's not a zoning requirement per se. Stormwater review, so if they didn't meet those standards for best management practice, they couldn't count it towards their calculation.
Well, for the TRC, there was a comment about street trees. I think 6 were required, but 5 were shown. Do you know if that now has been updated?
Yes, I believe it has been. Go back to the site plan. This version is still showing 5, so for the final review, they'll have to have the 6 shown there. I know they.
I think there was one added up on that north corner by the transformer pad,
Okay.
but I don't think that it counts as a street tree, so
I'd have to double check. I didn't review the site plans in as much detail for this review. For the planning and zoning ministerial review, I'll take a closer look at that. And I can let you know when I'm back on my computer if what they're proposing might meet that requirement. But I do see the 5 tree grates here, but they have an additional tree proposed outside of that. It would have to meet the requirements for like distance spacing from the right-of-way and that sort of thing. Qualify as a street tree.
And the renderings, the digital renderings, the trees don't really match what the site plan's showing either.
renderings being more illustrative, document for the zoning compliance aspects. Sorry?
It will continue to be one way.
Yeah, there are no plans from the city to change that.
Just looking at the site plan, it's kind of a blank canvas in terms of the street. Is there designated on-street parallel parking there?
Not on this side of the street, but there is on the others.
Where the bulb out, where it widens? It looks like a really wide road for just one lane of travel.
Park on this side of the street.
So towards the south end of Church Street, the south end of the project, where the bulb out ends.
On the east side of the street or on this side of the street?
Well, I'm just looking at the width of the street and like, is there extra asphalt there? And, yeah, see, there's a bulb out, like the road widens right there.
Oh, yes.
I'm assuming that's where the on-street parking is.
Yes.
South of that, it shrinks, but it still looks like it's 2 lanes wide there.
It's interesting because it is kind of a narrow street, which makes sense for it to be one way, but it is a pretty wide one-way street. The applicant's not proposing any on-street spaces, so I don't have any information about any evaluation of that based on standards. Could check in with transportation staff to understand better what's required of the travel lane and then the on-street parking, and if there's enough width there, it might be.
Yeah, if they're going to be tearing up that site, might as well, address whatever street issues or parking issues.
Michael, I think that spot right there I'm looking at is where they pull into their garage, right there. So they wouldn't be able to extend that on-street parking.
Well, I'm just wondering if either side they can pinch into the street with a planter or something. Like, there seems to be a lot of wasted space that could be better used. Like maybe those tree grates can push into the street a little bit.
Yeah, it's possible. Would have to meet, they still have to meet their 10-foot minimum sidewalk width, which I know they're meeting. Southern part of the site gets wider at the north side of the site. So there'd have to be some give and take about the streetscape design to make sure it meets that minimum sidewalk width, of course, and then whatever standards there are for the travel lane and then the on-street parking.
And same thing with the 2 alleyways. No need for 24-foot wide paving there. I mean, it could go down to 18, right? I mean, they're only going 5 miles an hour.
There are the standards there. Into, I know there are the standards required that modified down a little bit, but there is some.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's an
Yeah.
opportunity to minimize the amount of impervious surface on both the street and the alley.
I like the idea of a bump out planter, but that wouldn't be the applicant's responsibility, right? That would be the city doing that?
How it, something the applicant could propose and build as part of this project as they're constructing the sidewalk, or it could be something that's retrofitted later by the city. So if for instance, if the applicant was proposing on-street spaces as part of their design, they would be required to build it as part of their sidewalk streetscape construction. If they're not proposing it, wouldn't necessarily make them, it's not a zoning requirement. Sometimes you can see projects that, propose on-street parking, propose a bump out, and then they would construct it as if it met the city standards.
Well, I just brought it up just for city staff to see this as an opportunity to improve or enhance that portion of Church Street while they're building their building.
Absolutely, no, I appreciate that, and
So, just real quick, it's shown as a 20-foot lane right now. You've got a high-rise building. The fire department's not going to let you do bulb outs. They've got to have ladder access, and it's not going to be I-
A lot of discussions with fire department about aerial access for the front part of the building, less so the alleyways, but that does drive a significant amount of the
Sure, there's questions for the applicants, if the applicant would like to approach the stand. Thank you, Will.
Okay, great, yeah, just go left and right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Peter Alvarez. I'm director with Progressive Companies, architecture firm, Asheville. With me is Eric, both working on the Churchill project, and very, very happy to be able to present our updated design for the Churchill project. I want to go through a couple of items that pertain to I think, the great conversation we had a couple of months ago about the evolution of the project and the suggestions that the group made. We were able to incorporate all of the ideas that the group generated, with the exception of being able to extend the corner element up through the entire height of the building, and that's due to the maximum amount of area that we're allowed to use above 75 feet. The remainder of the items that were discussed, we have worked very hard to incorporate into the project. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to just comment on the site plan. I'm not sure what iteration this site plan is, but there's plenty of room there for the additional street down on the southeast corner, because we no longer have the curb cut leading into the garage at that point. So I think in terms of the street tree requirement, we can have that resolved in our final TRC design. The next, right here. One of the things that resonated with us, it really in all downtown projects that we work on, is what happens at the street level. What does it look like at different times of day and different seasons. So we started thinking about our original idea of having the corner entry be the lighthouse for anyone traveling down Church Street late afternoon, dusk, or at night. And we wanted to have that corner lit up as a way to, in one sense, welcome people down into the South Slope coming down Church Street. So what we did was, you can see that we have the street trees in place. We introduced some of the materials that we're using in the rest of the building, including metal panels. The brick we've selected is a Roman brick, and pass around a tray of samples of all the materials we're intending to use, and I'll go over each one of them. But the brick, we came up with the idea of rusticating the brick and have a reveal every 16 inches, and within the reveal have a random pattern of LED lights that would come on at night and illuminate really all three sides of the building, the two that face the alley and the one that, of course, faces Church Street, as just some fun thing that makes the building unique and different and helps animate the experience walking down the street, or however people are traveling down the street. They have some, we think it's just a really nice way to welcome you into this part of the South Slope. In addition, if you'll notice on the lower end of the building, we have two green screen grids that we're going to set up on the blank portions of the wall to introduce some additional greenery to the blank facades. As we discussed before, there's really no way that we can have windows in those walls because they're either part of one of the two exit stairs. So in order to soften up that exterior wall, we're going to introduce some type of climbing vegetation, and also to use the lighting added more glass to the level of the building at this front corner and at the southeast corner. Same view, more or less, during daytime. And then on the southeast corner, what we've done, the second level is right now it's a workout room, game room, some type of space that's occupied by the residents of the building. And the space below is dedicated to fire command and mechanical equipment. It'll be glass, it'll be lit at night, but it'll probably most likely be translucent so you can't see into it. But it's not a blank wall. Let's stop right here because this is where we talk about the materials. Using Roman brick at the base of the building all the way around, including the back side. The masonry, for the majority of the building, it's going to be that thin masonry panel that limestone colored. It's actually a concrete product that's substrate that's waterproofed. We're not going to use anything like EFS on the project. It's just not an appropriate material for this type of building. The glass will be predominantly used, obviously, for the windows and for the balcony railing, so that there's a residents sitting on one of the levels and looking out the balcony, blocking their view. And we're using two colors of aluminum. There's a mid-bronze that will be for the window frames and the upper and the lower portion so that the glass element reads as spanning floor to floor. And then the metal panels will be the slate gray color that is also in the sample set.
Peter, do the lights on the building at the brick at the entry, I'm assuming those meet dark sky requirements?
Yes, because what they'll be in the
Inset.
recessed part of the
Okay.
brick, so they won't, we're very aware of that
Okay.
it's not going to, it can't shine up because it's going to be blocked by the brick above it. There's a question about the second element to the southeast corner that is showing up in the design. This project will be designed, they'll have to be designed around the new the building code. There's an option of what used to be in the 2018 building code would have been required to have a pull-off lane at the front of the building for the fire department. That requirement has gone away as long as we have a type 1 building, which is fully sprinkled. And the fire department has to have access to the roof from the lowest level of fire department access up to the roof. So as you know from the plans, the fire command room is in the southeast corner of the building. There'll be standpipe with a sprinkler line or connection to the sprinkler system running up that stairwell, and firefighters have to be able to get up to the roof. So that's why we've elevated that stairwell element to allow for roof access. On the other side, that's where there's a stairwell there that doesn't go to the roof. No, we're going to run that up to the roof, but there's also the elevator tower that has to have the overhead clearance. So we decided let's try to make them the same height and make it look like it makes sense in terms of the overall mass. That's the reason for that, and the introduction of that new element. A little bit of
Let me try to understand it. So I looked at the upper floor plan. It doesn't look like, does the stair continue? The residents will use one stair to access the rooftop. And the one on the south end, the fire department will use to actually climb up and access the roof as well?
No, Residents cannot get up to the roof. Access, the roof is accessed by both stairs, environment or for maintenance. Residents only can get up to the 9th floor level to go out on that west terrace that's at the 9th floor.
So both stair towers are extending above the roof for only for 2 options for the fire department? And both of those are required for code?
One on the south is required by code because it's where it ties into the lowest level fire department access. And we took it away from the north side. We would have this really skinny, kind of odd-shaped space just for the elevator shaft. We decided to make it look better and be more functional. See, with the mechanical equipment, those maintenance crews are going to want to use the elevator to get equipment up and down to the roof. So we decided to run the elevator up to that top level, and they can go up one flight of stairs to get out to the roof. It just seems to make sense. I think it makes sense from a functional standpoint. I think it makes sense from the look of the building. Not have two kind of odd-shaped elements sticking up. There are multiple terraces in the building. The first one at the top of the 3rd level, that's the step back that we had to reduce the height of the building at that point. We're going to use that as a terrace space for the residents on that level. Then up on the 8th level, there's another terrace facing east that we're debating whether to have that be a green roof or not, where it was originally intended to be that. The developer has some other ideas of what they'd like to do. Backside at the 9th level is a larger terrace that faces west. Questions about any of this? I want to concentrate on this view right here because I think it really helps to animate it at the street. Way to address how you activate a sidewalk and a pedestrian experience in an area that doesn't really have a lot of positive pedestrian experience right now.
That's a really good rendering.
No, one of the architects in our Charlotte office.
Nitpicking here, that little balcony where it intersects with your cantilevered band just looks weird to me. I know I'm nitpicking.
I saw that too, Brian.
It's like I want you to like tie like maybe the brick swoops out and ties into something like there's a really nice where that form comes out. I don't know how to resolve that, but it's buggy.
You state your name and approach the stand. Yeah, and just approach the stand if you would like to speak. Thank you. That's all right.
Peter, I had a comment. I think you mentioned during your presentation that you had addressed all of the comments that we had last time, and I appreciate you coming for the informal review. It really helps out a lot. It's a lot to digest, but I don't think you really addressed any of the comments I had. I can see a green screen there. It's not referenced on the site plan. To me, it's an obvious afterthought. For something like that to work, it has to be a part of the site plan. It can't just be a cutout in the pavement. It's just not going to work. I've done a bunch of them, but it's still the same thing. It's the 10-foot sidewalk and it's the required street trees. And it now appears that there is no green roof, and I just don't understand. I know you said that the developer is considering maybe another use, but in plan view, this is the perfect spot for that. So to me, the streetscape, as I described last month, I mean, this is one of the most cherished, quiet pedestrian streets in Asheville. And it's becoming more and more used by pedestrians. And this is the same thing. That lighting is great. You know, in the summer, people will experience that after 9 or 9:30. But those of us driving down there or walking down there, there's no planters, there's no seating. I mean, this is a residential building. I assume that most of these aren't full-time residents, I'm assuming. I'm not going to assume what the use is inside, but it's just, because of the scale of this building, it's so big. As we mentioned last time, it's like the second tallest residential building in Asheville, maybe. And none of the things that I suggested in writing and in the meeting have been addressed. None. Maybe all the architects' information has been, but not the landscape architects. It's 10-foot sidewalk. And so I know it's voluntary compliance, but I know you mentioned that the development team was interested in doing other buildings. And, we mentioned how fragile the stormwater infrastructure is here, off the property. Nothing to do with, you're meeting the guidelines, but your engineers are tying it directly into God knows how old that box is right there and everything downstream. And there's just nothing being done to acknowledge that. And with a building of this scale, I don't understand it. I don't understand the fact that, I think about, and I know you don't like me referring to this all the time, but 145 Biltmore, that great building that you did with that green roof, why not? It's not expense. It's not, definitely the marketing you get off of it. I look at it from my office and I see this beautiful green roof all the time up there. And I just, I can't be in favor of projects like this, y'all, that come through that are so large in scale. Maybe they're addressing your architecture, but once again, and we've had this conversation before, but most people that are going to experience this building in the city of Asheville that are residents are going to experience it at ground level.
And the people that live in that building, because it is downtown, which is wonderful, all this housing. But most of these people, I assume, are going to be staying there because they can walk into town. So I don't think they're going to be in their cars as much. And so I used to work on the street. I walk the street a lot. And this little section is sort of the missing tooth, I feel like, on this street, because you have that wonderful pedestrian experience on the way down Church Street. You have a lot of different buildings, a lot of different materials. You have wrought iron fences, plantings, large trees. And then you get down here and you get a little lost, but then you're quickly in the south slope. And so this is like a bridge in between those two spaces that right now I scurry along because it doesn't feel great back there. And when you put this building here, I think it will help. But it will also change the quality of the street right there and the pedestrian experience. And so to Stephen Lee's point, I think what you've done with the building, you've really thought that through, but I don't feel like that same attention has been thought of at the streetscape. So what does that look like? I think that could be integrated planters. I like the street trees. I like the species that were chosen. Could we just try and think about the spaces that we see in other cities that we like to walk through? I think there's space and for that here. And then for the green roof, I'll just follow up with that. I think that the amenity terrace on level 8 is great for the residents, and that makes sense that should be a space that's a paved space, maybe with some integrated plantings. I think that's going to be really nice for the people that live there. I think that's nice for the architecture. That makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's accurate to call it a green roof, because when this board is talking about green roofs, we're talking about them more for stormwater, and that really won't be providing a lot of stormwater benefit. And a comparative project is the 145 project. That was also a parking lot. Post-development, that has less stormwater leaving that site than it did pre-development, even though there's more impervious surface, because the green roof is the stormwater management for that site, as you know. And last night we had big thunderstorms, and no water left that roof. 100% of that storm last night was retained by that green roof. And so I think that there's value for the stormwater piece. I also think that economically, it probably will be less expensive to do the green roof on the upper level than it is below grade. So there's cost savings on day one, plus the other benefits that, you know, our city gets, but the building owner does too with.
The company has no objection to putting the green roof on. We introduce those into our projects in Asheville all the time, so we're convinced that we should have a green roof on. We just have not had a detailed discussion with the owner yet about it. I think that's definitely on the table. I think, Stephen Lee, I apologize if what we're showing on the site plan didn't include what you had specifically asked for. I'm willing to, when a motion is made, if you want to put in a list of items that we could consider as enhancements to the streetscape that we could reasonably accommodate with the sidewalk width that we have.
Go to the 10-level plan.
I don't
That
think
one,
we have it on the.
yeah. If you don't mind, I'm sorry, because we were having a sidebar here. I can make one suggestion that I think I can make a suggestion. I'm looking at the main lobby and where you have the entry pushed back, and then there's the new kind of metal element that's grounding that, and then there's a piece of glass that's pulled out. Yeah, that no, next it's the next level down. Go up. Go up in the pages. Okay, so that glass, that's, if you pulled the glass that's adjacent to the sidewalk along the lobby and pulled it in line with the door and created a space underneath that, can't you understand where I'm going with this? You could create at least, I don't know, that's another, my eyes, it's about 4 feet. But it would. I'm just looking at like things you can do in the facade without losing a ton of area. I understand like as you go down the sidewalk, it's getting weird with elevations and things like that. But at least that one space, I think that would start to address the pedestrian experience if we had a little more room up against the building there, and it begins to engage that space. I don't know what you do there. Maybe
I think the answer is in integrated planters near where the glass is currently shown at that corner where you've got room, and then seating. But integrated plant, in this material sample that you have, there's an illustration in there of a green screen application that shows how that needs to be done. And I don't think, given where the building is placed, you're going to be able to do it where you're doing it. But the other thing is, I would recommend considering, again, given the size of the building, the trees that are currently specified are 1.5-inch caliper. I don't think I've ever spec'd a 1.5-inch caliper in 25 years. I mean, that's the tiniest tree a nursery will let go. I mean, is that what y'all want in front of that building? Drunk college kids coming down and knocking it over the first weekend it's in. It's just that kind of stuff. I mean.
And I think to follow up, it's also, we talk about these things, but they're not on the plans. And so we don't have any confidence that they will make it to the final project. And, you know, if the architects here were looking at plans that were missing the same amount of information, there would be a real problem. And so we just would really like to see the site detail on every project, and we're not seeing it on this project. We hear what you're saying, and we're agreeing with a lot of it, but it's hard to review something that doesn't exist on paper, and so I think that's important. And then the green roof piece, I would just follow up, is I would encourage you to talk to the engineer and the client sooner rather than later, because the stormwater is already figured out, and if you've already figured it out, then there's no motivation to solve it with the green roof. So thinking about it a little early on is, or talking about it with your client would be great.
Address that, and Stephen Lee to address some of the specifics, recommendation, or the I'll come up with in terms of the conditions. Strongly encourage the developer to consider a green. Encourage the developer to recess the front wall and to allow for more.
Investigate ways to incorporate, yeah.
All those out as.
If,
I don't have any issue with the green roof.
preference, yeah.
Recessing in of the lobby, Brian,
Maybe.
that's a maybe able to do part of it. I think the part that where the stair is,
Exit down, that's,
push the stair in and have maybe in line with the elevator. We recessed that back, but the client really wanted to have a bigger living type space.
idea.
I have a couple more site questions, real fast. I saw that there was a reference to retaining walls in one of the notes. Are there I didn't see any on the plans.
Part of the foundation of the northwest corner of the building. It's a basement wall, and it's not.
Okay, thank you. Trash collection, is that going to be inside the building?
Yes, yeah, there's a trash chute, there's a collection place, there's a place to sort out recycling, and there'll be a Dave's dumpster or something like that will come by a couple of times a week. The trash cans that you will see out in front of the building from Pleasant Station, because the trash truck can only go one way down the street, and they have to take it from the right side of the truck.
I think I'm understanding what's on the plans, Peter. Can you shift to the site plan? I've got a question about just the basic site plan, and while you're...
About the civil?
Yeah, the C2.01. And while Will's moving that, Peter, just as a reminder, last time I mentioned that, you know, I think that this is a really important project for Asheville, and we need residences downtown, and this is a really incredible space to be able to live, and I'm excited to see residential going in here. But my question, if you kind of scroll down just a little bit, the lobby entry, based off of the site plan, it looks like there's basically a 20-foot setback.
It's a different site plan.
Okay, that's what, because I was looking at the architectural, and it's different.
I don't know what that
Yeah,
is.
your site plan's not matching your floor plans.
If that were the case, then I could sit here and draw up all kinds of incredible stuff to go underneath that. And I was like, why can't they do, there's a bike rack there, and then I'm looking at the architecture, and it's not matching up.
Is my interpretation, you pulled that whole lobby forward, and you actually wrapped a vestibule around your transformer. So this site plan's really confusing.
It's out of date.
So if I look at, I guess it's on the architectural sheet G00310 level, which I think is the ground level. Wait, yeah. you can see the difference. It's pushed all the way to the 10-foot sidewalk line. If you were able to pull that back, there's like a really phenomenal opportunity to do something. And even if it was 30 inches, and with totally like transforming the experience of the resident going in that door, and then also from the streetscape.
Idea, I don't know if he would want to push the whole thing back.
That's a really big change. That's 10 feet difference right there. What's that? Maybe just 30 inches? It's in CAD, right? Just offset 30. I know the domino effect takes place, so.
How we can incorporate green screen so it's not just an active thought, it's something that has the ability to actually grow.
I'm afraid it has to encroach into that 10 feet. It may be able to work in concert. There's a door that's opening into the sidewalk. Again, it's on the site plan, so it may not be accurate, but you may be able to work it in concert with that opening, the door that's opening out into the public way. Because there's going to have to be something that kind of barrier that lets the public know that that door's going to open. So it kind of has to be thought of when the footprint's being put together. You just move the whole building back 2 feet.
That was part of that wall, the exterior wall along the game room or whatever it is. Just at least on one floor level.
Can you maybe bring us to the best view of that little indent where there are two doors on the sidewalk that, it doesn't show up very well on any of the rendering views? It looks like a cascading, green element there.
That's your rabbit model.
Spin around.
In your money shot there, it's kind of in a dark spot there, and I can't figure out what's going on. It's kind of a,
Kind of see it on Geo 24. A little bit. Zoom in.
I mean, there are two doors, I think, coming out onto the sidewalk that are slightly.
It's right to the right of that green screen. Yeah, right there.
Okay. But there are two doors. One of them appears to be kind of connected to the residence space. And you kind of have to toggle back and forth between the plan and the elevation. But I'm wondering, like, what kind of energy will be in that space. I think I think you really heard us and addressed the two corners. And that nighttime shot, I really appreciate that, because even though it's the skin of the building, and I'm hearing comments that there needs to be more sidewalk activity, I think because the inside of the building flows out to the sidewalk, I think that's really good. I think the sidewalk will feel a lot bigger because of all that transparency. So I think that's really helpful. And then the other corner, even though you're going to have translucent panels, I think you've done your best to articulate that corner. But just that section in the middle, I'm a little worried there's just kind of a dead spot. There's a person rendered kind of like in that spot there, and yeah, I'm just wondering how can you kind of activate or hide it or whatever.
Jeff Dalton would say that's a place where somebody's going to get their head whacked.
It looks like you hit the two corners pretty hard, but then towards the middle there, you kind of ran out of gas, so I'd say give it some more attention. And the site plan shows some bike racks kind of in an awkward spot that kind of makes using the sidewalk kind of weird. So I'd say before you lock in on the bike racks, put them in a place that doesn't kind of get in the way of people walking down the street. And maybe that indent is a place where bike racks kind of take up some space or activate, or maybe that's where a bench goes or something. But I think there's opportunity in that little indent to create some more energy. Yeah, there's what appears. Correct. It looks like a person is rendered standing.
How about right here, right in here?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, I'm talking a different spot.
Yeah, I mean, the plan shows two doors coming out of it, and I'm guessing those are going to be two doors that are steel panel, no glass, because I think they're mechanical or something. So, yeah, it's just kind of a dead spot on your skin.
Are we ready to get into we're getting into the architecture?
I think I would just comment similar to what Michael was saying on that other entry further down. Right.
That's the exit for the south stair tile.
That's the one I was talking about getting your head whacked.
Yeah, you're creating a,
That's where the head gets dropped.
Well, they're both like clearly there because of code reasons, and it just seems like it ought to offer more to the streetscape than a requirement to meet a code line item.
I mean, it's code limiting you from putting a door at the facade? Okay. I see. Further.
I think I can't tell from the rendering where it is.
Well, it looks like you would hit the other door, and so
Far back
you're
is the
limited.
fire command room.
It's as far back as the fire command room. So if you can pull it forward, I just think for safety, I think having less of a dark place for somebody to,
Hang out.
yeah.
On balance, I really appreciate all the hard work you guys put in.
I think the south elevation is much improved, and that south corner is much improved over what we saw last time.
I still very much like the ABBA
Of the broader organization of your west elevation is still my favorite, which you really don't, it's not the primary, but I still really like that one the best. Again, I think I said it once, I don't know that I'm gonna make it a condition, but if there's any way to convince the developer not to do the little timber over the main entrance for that balcony, let's please. It's such a you've put a lot of thought and effort and consistency into the building, and that one jarring note right at the entrance. Or to burn it down. Yeah, like make it
incorporated into the base.
into the base of the building would make more sense, but it's also such a clean line, it's like, I'll leave it at that. The window jogs, again, I like the ABBA on the west side better than the east side. And I understand what you're doing with the main entry. Honestly, the way the building's currently rendered with the material changes and anchoring the metal pieces, I would disagree with our guidelines if our guidelines said metal panels are not an authentic material for a downtown. I don't get how you say that. I mean, Chicago style was 1890. Anyway.
BB&T building. It was all metal panels before it was
ask staff a question? What happens if someone in an existing building downtown where there's a 10-foot sidewalk, a retail or residential building, the owners decide to place planters with seasonal color inside that 10-foot area? Because there are dozens and dozens and dozens of examples. Are we going to allow vivid and attractive streetscapes, or are we going to require 10-foot?
It might be a difference between what happens in the real world and what technically should happen for, all our codes and standards, whether encroachment might be needed in some instances, or there's a minimum clear width that's maintained, so the 10-foot sidewalk gets constructed. But obviously, there are things like, street trees and other appurtenances or whatnot in the sidewalk, so there are, minimum clear distances for people to walk through. So, I think those are met still. It might be okay if there's some kind of, right-of-way granted there. Correct. Correct. Yep. So, right. So the sidewalk has to be 10 feet wide, but there are instances where things can encroach into it. But you have to have a certain clear zone, once you take those into consideration.
If that's the case, that opens up a lot more opportunity to address Steve Lee's concern. Having more landscaping at the street.
Or long rectangular planters parallel to the face of the building up against the face of the building. I mean, I can just think going down Haywood Street, brand new streetscape, building owners go out and put great planters. This would require a different type of planter. They need to be much more robust and permanent, but I just think it's kind of a non-issue. I mean,
I think that's a good conversation we could have with like Public Works and transportation staff to make sure it meets their standards.
We'll talk to the client about saying this is building in a very positive way.
Yep.
It's not a lot of money to do that.
I would be in favor of that as opposed to the green screen.
Yeah, I would too. I think the green screen is a default. We can't encroach into the sidewalk. We've got to do something to break this wall up. I'd rather not have the green screen, have, planters can have seasonal plantings in it. Anything.
I really like the brick, and I think architects have been lazy with masonry downtown. It's just kind of pasted on. Sounds like, I like the coursing and the recess. I think you've added the masonry, and then you've added another layer of articulating the masonry, which I really appreciate. And I like the integrated lighting. I think that's pretty cool.
This will be our second project with foam and brick. We got on the restoration hotel. He's growing brick at the base, and we really like it a lot. The colors are great, and the proportions are nice to work with.
And speaking of that, when I'm at Pitcher Park at night and I'm looking up at the Restoration Hotel, all I'm seeing is all the ductwork on the top floor. So on your nice lobby there, be super mindful. It's a tall lobby, and so you're seeing a lot of the ceiling because you're really lighting that up like an aquarium. So like, make sure when you look up, you have put some thought into how you're composing what that ceiling looks like.
That's being addressed. We have, we're working with Level 5 Design. They're an interiors design firm in Raleigh. They're going to make something great in that space, I'm sure. So it won't be exposed by joists or anything like that.
Restoration, there's a lot of just ductwork. It's so fussy. I don't know if you guys ever notice that. At night, if you look up there, all you see is just mechanicals and clutter.
open up for public comment. Thank you, Peter. Thanks. I'll open up for public comment at 1:40 PM. And if there is no public comment, we will close public comment at 1:40. And then I believe we have a motion.
I would move to recommend approval of the Churchill condominiums project as presented, based on the site plans, elevations, and the materials submitted and discussions heard during this review. Find that the project meets the intent of the downtown design guidelines as stated in the staff report, subject to the following conditions. One, that the applicant address the balcony canopy junction at the main entrance. Two, that the applicant review potential encroachments and/or building facade adjustments to incorporate pedestrian and planters for the Church Street facade. Yes, how am I doing so far? That the applicant ensure to add the missing street tree, that
At least the
what?
one required.
at least the one required, correct?
And then those two alcoves.
Say again.
Improving those two alcoves.
Improving the two exit alcoves, and again, in keeping with our other comments on incorporating the enhancements to the pedestrian experience, that the applicant, we strongly recommend that the applicant incorporate green roof as much as practicable in the building design. That the applicant provide 3-inch caliper street trees. Any other conditions? Minimum. On the caliper, yes, thank you. I'll take a friendly amendment.
And the amendment, just to be specific, because I hate to harp on something so simple in a building this large, but with the planters that are being suggested, they need to be a material and scale to match the architecture, and consider additional site amenities for pedestrians.
Thank you. As stated.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The motion is approved, and we can move on to our agenda.
I just want to mention, I appreciate the designers being so open to input and not reactionary and not trying to push back too hard. That's not really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all of the comments, and I think at the end it's going to be a much better project.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to allow Robin and Ricardo, I think, both requested to recuse themselves from the upcoming design review for 297 Haywood for the respite. That Robin is the designer. I think she's the presenter for the project, and Ricardo as her partner.
Domestic partner.
Excuse me, yeah.
Not partnering with the project.
He has no part in the design. He wanted that very clear. Yes, he wanted that very clear. Would also, they have material interest in the project and would ask to be recused. I so move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved.
Do I need to leave?
Might as well. It looks better that way.
For the record, I did give her my opinion.
I'm just going to present.
It's a cleaner differentiation, I guess.
everybody comfortable?
Stuffing.
We're burning up. It's hard, these systems. Oh.
I see.
We get really cranky when we get hot.
I thought we were very nice.
Should we all take?
Yeah, we can take a brief recess if you'd
Okay.
like. We could, yeah, we can move items around to, should wait for Robin anyway to rejoin for the committee, so we can take a brief recess if you want. Mute the microphones for recording. So we're muted and.
I heard that. I was actually sitting on my porch.
You know who owns that island in front of the Haywood Church? That traffic circle or whatever it's called?
Is that DOT? Because it's Patton's DOT maintains? Okay. That'd be my guess, yeah. Jostled.
I don't know.
Huh. Okay. Sometimes you can press the power on the side. We're not here. Right now. I might not be with it.
Everyone's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, back on one.
Resume at 1:49.
Okay, ready? Not doing exactly what I want, but this is fine. So, good afternoon, Board. I'm Tyler Kelly, Urban Planner 2 with Planning Urban Design. I'm here to present for the respite at 297 Haywood Street. Here you can see the site context. We were just speaking about the awkward island there at the intersection of Haywood and Patton, and that sort of loop around of Haywood Street for the drop-off area for the church, just on the edge of downtown. Currently, zones CBD and is outside of the traditional core in the tallest height zone. The current project is to renovate the existing space and then add a one-story addition. Thank you again for the demolition plans. Yeah.
So the additional story has a total gross floor area of 3,401 square feet, triggering the level 1 site review, hence why we are here today. The total scope of work proposes 12 bedrooms, 4 restrooms, offices, peer support room, and other shared facilities to assist staff and residents. Space will be used as a shelter, which is an existing use on site. Here you can see just a couple photos of the existing site. Was able to grab these before the submitted plans, but I can jump over to those too. We have the proposed changes just here on the different elevations. So as indicated on the submission, main building materials will be fiber cement panels and trim, stucco assembly with brick veneer, and 2 types of windows. I didn't see those on the spec sheet, but I'm sure Robin can answer any questions related to those. And asphalt shingles with the relocated solar panels from the church building. Move through the elevations. The level 1 review has not been completed yet, so I haven't had a chance to do a deep dive on the landscaping. A majority of the landscaping required is existing on site. Just from my brief glance at the landscape plans, shouldn't be too difficult to meet additional requirements there. Here we have the last renderings.
So this is a church building being converted to affordable housing?
It's a existing shelter facility that's just being renovated and expanded. Any other questions from the board? I can jump to the actual plans too, if you'd like.
Clarify, is the church building still acting as a church? The portion?
Right now, the front portion is a church, and it's going to stay a church.
Your name, please.
I'm sorry. My name is Robin Raines with Row House Architects, and the front portion off Haywood is remaining a church. The sanctuary is the sanctuary. That's all staying. You can see it on the site plan. Yes, the white part in the front is the church. That's remaining church. The part that's gray is an existing respite. We're adding another floor of respite.
I see.
So none of the uses are changing.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. We'll have the applicant approach, and then there might be a few questions.
So on this sheet, which was uploaded today, so I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, you can see the existing 2 stories, and we're adding a 3rd story to that.
And changing the siding.
No, the brick is staying
The
brick.
brick will stay brick, and the back will be,
Yes,
got it,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Flat roof now, you're adding
yes.
the gray story and
And the sloped roof. The client wanted the roof to reflect the roof of the church. Is there anything that I can help show you?
It's just such an odd project because
It
it's
is.
technically in downtown, but it's not remotely in downtown. It's not part of the urban core. It's not part of the urban fabric.
Right, and it's not, I mean, the sanctuary is on the pedestrian, I suppose, but yeah, this is in the parking lot.
Robin,
Yes.
can you describe to us in detail your overall design concept for the entire building? In detail, please.
In detail.
Starting with the south elevation.
Oh, my. It should be evident. I mean, I think it speaks for itself. Client did want this to feel less cold. It felt like an 70s Sunday school. And they wanted it to feel more like a home. The people that live here, that are here temporarily, they want it to feel.
Honestly, my only comment is the little elevator tower, whatever tower on the side. Why a flat roof? Why not just another hip that ties into the rest of it? I don't know. That's the part that
That
feels
part right there.
a little more commercial and less residentially.
Yeah. That would be a big deal.
Well, if that's only comments, then,
Well, I'll second that. I think that elevator, I assume it's not in the building footprint because you'd have to demo, and so you stuck it on the side.
Yeah.
It
It's a
looks-
very tight program, and the basement area is where they do their Wednesday meals, where they cook. And so anyway, it's stuck on the outside.
Yeah, it looks like, it's facing the interstate, it's not that important, but it looks really awkward.
Okay.
And I think that screen porch, also, I mean, it feels like a residential type of space, and I think you can do more with that. It looks like you're struggling a little bit with the materials there, like it's in a little crotch there, and you're using, trying to find the elevations, a little blue.
It's on sheet I can't see, A502 in the package. It's, I'm zooming in here. That's it, right there.
Yeah, go down to the, maybe the rendering.
Okay.
Right there.
Like the white, what's the material on the corner?
White is columns. They don't, they're not necessarily going to be white. I would think it was, what we normally do is wrap with fiber cement to make it look like a heavy timber, and that's what I would tell the renderer to revise, is to make that look like a heavy timber set of columns. And then there's screens. It's going to be really heavy-duty screens. The black is actually screen, so it's a screen porch. And then below, it's fiber cement panels, kind of to a railing height to make it look like it was a filled-in porch.
And that's mostly for the residents to exit and.
They cannot exit and enter. There's an alarm on that door, but they can sit out there and smoke and hang out.
So it seems like it's going to be a popular space. And
There already is one there, and we're enlarging it, and they use it a lot.
it just feels a little cold and institutional. It just seems like
What
an
would-
opportunity to really make it feel more like a getaway space and warmer materials. And I don't know, it just seems like you're struggling a little bit with like what materials to use, and there's the blue panels, and I'd give it some more study. And I feel the same way about that, whatever that piece is, it's to the right of that. Is that like a roof, or is it just like a C-channel, metal C-channel that like?
It will have a roof in it, but it's a metal C-channel awning.
Maybe use the same language. It seems like it's just kind of stuck on there. It feels kind of industrial, right next to a kind of a residential, kind of softer space. And it seems like there's a lot of kind of disconnected pieces kind of stuck on to the
far as the porch, what would you recommend?
I don't know if it would cost more, but could you bring the seat, as I'm looking at this image, the left end of the seat channel, pull it down and wrap it and make that the actual roof, flat roof for this piece?
They want it to look like a residential porch. I could do that, but I don't think they'd like it.
I would like it, but. I think when you change the columns and make it look more like a wrapped column, right? I was reading that as brick, like painted brick or something. I think if you make those look more like and you inset them a little bit, it's going to look more like a frame pagoda in that sense.
And normally what we do, if I zoom in, that you can see that reveal, that would be black.
Right.
And then the columns would look like a heavy timber column.
Right.
So it would look like there was a reveal in between each column. And then the fiber cement on the porch.
Maybe lighten up that corner, that's really chunky, and it's so chunky that it feels like it may want to be brick, and if it doesn't want to be that chunky, then maybe slim it down. And looks like you have room to lift that roof up a little bit before you get into that windowsill, and maybe that'll help, maybe?
Let's open up for public comment at 2:02. There's no public comment. We will close for public comment at 2:02 p.m.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the 297 Haywood Street respite project as presented based on the site plans, elevations, and materials submitted and the discussions heard during this review. Find that the project meets the intent of the downtown design guidelines as stated in the staff report, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant review the roof for the stair tower and elevator tower, excuse me, and make that a hipped roof where it ties in, as well as review the column size and material at the screened-in porch, as well as the roof elevation at the screened-in porch.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved, and we move on to 29 Page Avenue, which is a level 1 project. No, I think it's 14 O'Henry.
So that loading.
Always. That's what everybody says.
Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Fleer. I'm an urban planner 1 here with the city of Asheville. And this first presentation of the 2 that I have is for 29 Page Avenue. Just as a note at the top, we unfortunately do not have any members of the applicant team here, so just making a note of that. Yes, 29 Page Avenue is the last structure on this block of Page Avenue. If you go any further north, you go into sort of parking associated appurtenances. Yes, it's a 0.11 acre site in the traditional downtown core and in the intermediate height zone. On the top layer here, we have a few images from the entrance and around the entrance. You can see the one existing honey locust street tree there. And then on the lower layer here, we have the rear of the building along Battery Park Alley. As we'll see, some of these attachments on this rear side are going to be removed. As we look here at the front, the only exterior work will be the replacement of the windows and the removal of the branding and other sort of artistic elements on the front side. But the Dillard Realty Co. Realtors painted sign on the left side of the left image will stay as proposed. Now we go to the proposed changes. We can see the various proposed removals and replacements on the rear Battery Park facade. And then on the right side, we have the removal and replacement of the existing windows on the front facade facing Page Avenue. On the remaining facade, we have the removal of the infill to be open for windows as shown, and as I indicated, the painted sign on that facade will remain. We have renderings from the applicant here of what the front and the rear facades will look like. As you can see, it is basically just premised on the removal of some attachments to those facades and no other work. Just to speak about the project as a whole, it is an upfit for both floors of this project. The bottom floor will remain retail. The upper floor is going to be converted into 4 residential units. The cost of work is what triggered this to be a level 1 project and is what brings us here. And there, as I said, the only exterior work will be the replacement of the windows and the removal of some attachments to the front and rear facades, along with the removal of the infill on the northern facade. That is what I have for you, and I'm happy to move about the slides as desired, but as I stated before, the applicant is not here for any questions.
Are they replacing the facade material, or they're just removing? I can't tell. Is it new facade material at the first level?
I believe you're talking about on the Page Avenue facade?
Yeah. And they're just cleaning off the...
That's correct. One other note while we're looking things over. This project, because it is interior only and downtown, there's really only one requirement as part of level 1 review, which was to go through alternative compliance so that a street tree did not need to be planted on the Battery Park alley side, which is a completely various underground elements that needed to be avoided.
Vote against it since Brent even didn't show up. That's what I'm thinking.
Let's open up for public comment at 2:09 p.m. And then we'll close for public comment at 2:09 p.m.
I move to recommend approval of the building renovations at 29 Page Avenue as presented based on the site plans and materials submitted. And we didn't really hear a discussion. During this review, we find that the project meets the intent of the downtown design guidelines as stated in the staff report.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. And we move on to...
So I believe Kate would like to recuse herself for the next project as it's going to be your future office. Is that correct? Okay. So So moved?
All those in, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved.
All right, I will get us started on 14 O Henry Avenue. This is really just on the other side of the Grove Arcade here. As you can see, this one's bounded on the east side by O Henry, on the west by Otis Street, and then we see Battery Park running directly to the south of this property. It is 0.57 acres. It's in the traditional downtown core, and it is in the tallest height zone. It is the former Asheville Citizen-Times building. The preponderance of the space in this building is still used by Citizen Vinyl. This project will primarily be addressing the southernmost area, which is the loading dock, which we should see in this next screen. Here we see the existing loading dock to the south, and then on the Otis Street frontage, we see the side and the rear of the building. These renderings show the proposed changes. I'll reference the front elevation on the bottom right here first. We have a couple changes to access, predominantly a new aluminum stair and a new storefront to match what is already existing. Moving around the side and the rear of the property, we have glass block fire-rated windows on the frontage that we would see as the right here, and then on the left we have further fenestration that is designed to match the windows that are already there. In this case, it's only that furthest right window that is not currently existing. Here we see the renderings of these glass blocks on the side of the loading dock, and then we see as well that one new window to the rear of this property. I believe we do have the applicant here to answer any questions on this one, so I'm happy to leave the floor open or answer any questions that you have for me.
Is this building not on the, I thought this was a local landmark under, and it would need HRC approval. Am I wrong on that, or?
I can check online.
Trying to, it's just slow.
It is slow today.
Does the applicant know if? Can you state your name? Thank you.
Also. Emily McMakin from Function Architecture. I do not, I've been working on this building since it was purchased from Citizen Times, but 99% of it has all been interior. We have done very little exterior work, and so it has not come up. So I was going to say I don't think it is because it hasn't been brought up once, and there has been a couple small things, ramps, this and that we've done.
Okay.
When I was on, we would have voted for it. I mean, this is an Anthony Lord building.
Loading dock portion, just in general, was added in the 60s. It's an addition, yeah, so, but it is not part of the original.
I'm 50 years old.
I was wondering about, okay, thank you.
The only general comment that I would have about the design is, that I know that y'all would point out, is the second row of windows. There is a second story there. It is an occupied space, and I can guarantee you if they leave that space, Nathan will probably put in the windows up there, but we just don't have that opportunity at the moment.
Can you explain, like, will this building be mostly accessed from the other part of the building, or?
Yes, so there is a central corridor that is actually accessed from the parking lot on the other side. That's a rated corridor that goes down the center that all of the different tenants use. And this will enter through that space. The loading dock itself needed to remain a loading dock. So while there is an existing storefront and a garage door, it's kind of all boarded up, really piecemeal right now. There is also a garage door that goes into Citizen Times that you can't, that's in that alcove. So hence we're just kind of improving the loading dock stair that's already there. So that is not the main entrance. It'd be the street front against all the employees and everything, and the parking is all to the side of the building.
So who will be walking up that kind of existing stair and accessing this new storefront facing?
Probably, I would assume your customers would come in through that stair. I mean, that would be, employees would be side, and if they had people from meetings or clients would come up through that front entrance.
So you're not trying to you're not trying to activate
It's
that?
not a mercantile space, it's an office. You're only going to be coming there if you have an appointment to be there.
And if you do come there, you will be entering the north side of the building and walking down that corridor?
That is programmatic, dependent on the client. I don't know where they intend on having their clients park.
I'm just trying to understand, is this like an entrance? Like, is it how you enter that space?
Yes, people will go in and out of it, but it's not their primary entrance. It's not a storefront to a store. It is an entrance and out exit. It's not their emergency exit. It's not, it's already an existing like storefront. We're just improving it. They're gonna try to reuse the kind of metal frame that's there for the glass, but the GC and I have our doubts that that's gonna be possible, and so if it's not possible to reuse that kind of framework, then we're gonna match the existing galvanized aluminum storefront that is throughout the building already.
But it's not an egress exit?
No, so the plans that were submitted to the city show it, but we have made adjustments while it's been being reviewed, and because one of the interior tenants of the whole building has left, and we're now actually able to extend that rated corridor all the way over to the loading dock, where we weren't able to do that at the time of submission.
So if you're in that space and in an emergency, you would exit out
There's not a door connecting at all, probably on the plans that you're seeing.
Okay.
These changes kind of all happened right when I was submitting, so the corridor now goes to, right, it's if you can see the bathrooms on there, the bathrooms are going to be shifted back, and there's going to be a door that goes down to a hallway now.
Okay, it looks like that's what's on this plan, A100.
Okay, I wasn't sure, I could not remember.
It
which
goes
one.
to a door that exits on,
Yes.
okay.
So when you say it's functioning as a loading dock, even though there's a new storefront, you're saying that the reason it's remaining as an elevated platform from a recessed driveway is because trucks will continue to...
Yes, Citizen Vinyl uses it as a loading dock. Citizen Vinyl uses it as a loading dock still. Citizen Vinyl,
loading what?
They load in and out the materials to make records, vinyl.
So they will come in through this new storefront?
They don't access this, that's a different tenant.
So they're using the loading dock, but they're not entering through the new storefront?
Correct, because they're two separate tenants. So
They're using the elevated existing platform to unload stuff?
yes,
And then how does it get into their
to the
space?
right, there's a garage door, but you can't see it on these plans. So if you're looking at this, to your right, there's a garage door that's existing. It's in the wall, yeah, in the platform.
You can kind of see it.
So it doesn't show up on the plan, but there's a door there.
Correct, because that's an existing tenant space that we weren't doing anything.
The I'm asking is because there's an opportunity, I mean, it appears to be a recessed service driveway, and I'm trying to figure out, is it going to remain this utilitarian space?
Yes. That was actually one of the reasons that we were originally having to put a ramp there because we couldn't make that corridor, which was causing other issues because they needed, so we were trying to figure out how we could do a ramp that we could tear down when we needed to access the loading dock, and then that other tenant left and we were able to extend the corridor, so now we don't have this big ramp that we're going to have to take down. It was a whole thing. So that actually solved a lot of things. So it would have had a giant ramp there also, because there was no ADA egress at that point without the
All
corridor.
right, I think I missed some of that, so you don't have to have an ADA egress or entrance.
Because now they can access the existing ramp,
On the
where
other
originally
side,
they
I see.
could not.
Okay.
So, it would have just been a giant ramp about a month ago, so. There is a giant planter there to the left for the landscape architects, and I have a feeling Living Roofs is going to make that a very nice planter. It's kind of what they do. Yes.
So I'm Kate Unkaya. We'll be moving into this space. So we have 2 entrances and exits now, whereas before we just had 1.
Okay.
And that is provided by that interior hallway.
Okay.
Not have to go all the way around the building to access the mailroom and some other things that the building provides. And so the loading dock will, as Emily was saying, help Citizen Vinyl as they come and go. They also use loading docks on the other side of the building, so it's not like every single day it gets used. It gets used occasionally, but it's not, it still has to be serviceable, but it's not used.
I'm sorry, Kate, did you say you were going to occupy that space?
Our office is currently in this building right now.
Okay.
And we're looking to move into this space, which right now is a dock and doesn't have any installed up.
And I assume you've explored the opportunity to find a better use for that forecourt? And
We're hoping to be able to use that loading dock space for our employees occasionally to eat inside, outside. We're really excited to have a storefront or an at-grade entrance into our office. And right now we're on the 3rd floor, and so we're hoping to sort of transform this vacant space right now that's unactivated. It looks pretty abandoned. And so we're excited about sort of activating this space, but with the constraints of still having to be good neighbors with the other users in the building, and we don't own the building, so we have to, make sure that we're so the people that will be going in and out of that entrance will primarily be our employees. Some will go through the side entrance, I think a lot of them will go in and out of that front entrance, and throughout the day, so you can go to lunch or coffee, so we see this as a active space.
So that building is listed as a contributing building in the downtown historic district, but it is not a local landmark. And it's not listed on SHPO for North Carolina, nor is it listed in the National Register for Historic Places. So in the designation in the historic district, it's item 181, 1938, 1939, and then it does mention the 1960 South Wing, which is the part that you are modifying. And I would find what you're doing in general keeping with that addition.
Anybody like to see the last block?
I can see it, thank you. It looks a lot like all the other ones.
Matching ribs.
Thank you.
Just one. Recognizing that the existing buildings over the loading dock opening don't do this. The new windows that you're putting along the side, have you looked at whether they align with the stone joints, with the stone pattern?
Yeah, it's one of the notes in the plans is to site coordinate, so while on the plan it shows like 15, 15, 15, it then is noted to adjust as needed to align with the outside paneling.
Great.
So the storefront is recessed back. It's kind of not clear in the drawing. So is there a desire or an intention to match whatever metalwork is in the existing building? Is it going to be a completely different metal? It looks like there's some white metal maybe on the existing main building, original building. What's the color of the metal storefront?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, it would be the galvanized aluminum storefront to match the existing.
The original.
Yes. What is there now is somebody, there was giant garage doors, and at some point in time, could not tell you, somebody used tube steel to kind of fill it in, and then it had like weird panels stuck in it, and we're trying to take those weird panels off, and they're hoping to be able to attach glass to that. We're not sure how successful that's going to be. So if we cannot use what is existing to create that storefront, then we'll be putting storefront in to match the existing storefront that's throughout the building.
If there are no further comments, I'll open up for public comment at 2:27 PM. Close for public comment at 2:27 PM.
Do we have any conditions?
Just that they might maintain that, the
adjustment on the. Well, that's noted, yeah, okay. All right. Okay, all right, I got you.
Currently noted, but
All right, I move to recommend approval of the exterior renovation at 14 Henry Avenue as presented based on the site plans, elevations, and materials submitted. In discussions heard during this review, find that the project meets the intent of the downtown design guidelines as stated in the staff report, subject to the condition that, as noted on the drawings, that the design adjust the location and size of the proposed new openings to align with the existing joints in the stonework.
second.
All those we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. I believe that's the end of our agenda. So we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Or, I don't know.
Like, with a minute to spare, 2:30.
Yeah.
Very good.